first, some big news in the NFL. This happened right at the beginning of the weekend, right when the weekend commenced. The San Francisco 49ers and the Miami Dolphins made some headlines heading into the weekend. The San Francisco 49ers have traded up to move up in the draft. They traded with the Miami Dolphins to select and receive the 3rd overall pick in this year's draft. So the 49ers traded their 12th pick, a 3rd-round draft pick in this year's draft, and a first round picks in the 2022 and 2023 drafts to the Dolphins for this year's number 3 overall pick. Now, the 49ers have clearly made their intentions clear. They are going to select a quarterback in this year's draft. They've made their intentions clear. They've got major health concerns moving forward about Jimmy G. That's the intention. That's the message that they're sending. And I'm sorry, you just don't move up from 12 to 3 just to select a generational offensive tackle or pass rusher rather, or defensive tackle. I'm sorry. You just don't. If you're in a committed long distance relationship, you've been together 2 years, you don't download Tinder and Hinge. You just don't, because what it says is that clearly you don't peruse through those apps and take cursory glances at the people on those apps unless you're starting to let your mind run amok and think about greener pastures. Because if you do and you're caught, you're no longer in that committed relationship. You're no longer in a relationship at all. Your significant other is going to dump you, and that's it. So when you look at Jimmy Garoppolo, yes, his numbers have been pretty good, 24-8 as a starter. And this is a guy that during his Super Bowl run completed 69% of his passes, but the problem is he missed 10 games last year due to injuries, high ankle sprain. And in the 4 seasons that he's been a starter, he's only been able to make it through the season healthy one time, only one time in his career. And these are where the reservations and the reticence lies, is because they're not sure, can we trust Jimmy Garoppolo to stay healthy throughout his entire career? And he's got 2 more years on his contract, which is true. But I think if you're John Lynch and the 49ers, you're saying to yourself, well, we'd almost rather draft a quarterback, maybe have them sit out a year or 2 as a backup behind Jimmy Garoppolo, and then we move on, and then we've got our quarterback. The trend in the NFL is to win with cheap quarterbacks. Tom Brady is the exception because he's 43, but more importantly, the contract that he did sign was more akin to that of a rookie contract, a guy making between $5 to $10 million. So the lower your salary is for the quarterback, that's the trend that teams are seeing. The easier it is to probably make a Super Bowl run and to win. And the San Francisco 49ers are saying to themselves, we are in a championship window right now. We like Jimmy G a lot, and we've got a championship defense, but we need our quarterback to stay healthy. They've got a championship defense. They've got a championship coach. And last year was a bit of a fluke and an anomaly because literally their entire defense was injured. And George Kittle was out for big stretches as well. Even the Eagles now, there's no consensus about Jalen Hurts anymore. They just stated that they're unsure about Jalen Hurts. No consensus within the organization about Hurts' status as the franchise quarterback. So, case in point, that football is such a fickle sport. It's such an ephemeral sport that people always seek immediate gratification. If you no longer demonstrate a bit of precociousness, they're going to deem you a backup. Just look at the draft last year, 2020. 11 quarterbacks taken in the draft. 4 of those 11 were able to start at least one game. Of those 4, only 2 of those quarterbacks were actual locks to start. Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert. Those were the only 2 quarterbacks from last year's draft that are legitimate faces of their franchises moving forward. We still have questions about Tua, and we still have questions about Jalen Hurts, who are the only 2 other guys to have started. Look at 2019. Same exact thing. 11 quarterbacks drafted. Only 5 of them, of those 11, started at least one game, and only 2 of those 5 quarterbacks are locks to be starters. Kyler Murray and Daniel Jones. And to be honest, Daniel Jones, this is the year to prove whether or not he really is the franchise-altering quarterback that the Giants need. Dwayne Haskins, Gardner Minshew, and Drew Lock were the only other quarterbacks to start, and clearly they're not franchise quarterbacks. So teams no longer are kind of exerting this patience anymore, especially at the quarterback position. They can no longer afford to wait, or at least that's the feeling that they give off. I mean, hell, even Baker Mayfield, who led his team to the AFC divisional round, the Browns aren't completely sold on him either, because if they were, they would have signed him to a long-term deal already. And they haven't yet. So the 49ers like Jimmy Garoppolo, but they're just a bit reticent to sign him to re-sign him again because of his injuries, and which is why they made that push to move up in the draft, select the number 3 overall pick in this year's draft. They're willing to make that change in pursuit of a championship. Again, they reached the Super Bowl just 2 years ago, so they know that they've got the makeup to go back there. Not to mention, what this also says is that the Dolphins, at the moment, are still fully sold on Tua. Personally, I actually agree with their decision. I do think it would be in their better interest to perhaps sign a great or draft a great offensive tackle like Penei Sewell, or a great wide receiver, an elite wide receiver like a Jamar Chase, like a Devontae Smith, just to see what they really have in Tua. Because I do think that they kind of need to slowly take the training wheels off of his bike. And he was thrown into the fire. He had just recovered from hip surgery, so I'm willing to give him a pass as he's kind of getting his feet wet slowly. But this is going to be the year that you'll be able to tell, if you're Brian Flores and the Dolphins, whether or not you really got someone.